I think most of you are here for the first session, and I want to be very clear that as I talk about social communication, that I think all communication is social. It's part of why we're using these communication systems, and that multimodal communication is important. So, and it's personal. So as we look at how we're going to use sharing stories as a piece of that social communication, it's a great way to help somebody who is beginning their journey to be a better AAC user, who still is figuring things out. I love using storytelling as a way, or sharing stories, reading stories, listening to stories, as being a springboard for communication. And that way it gives us a chance to have some structure to what we're talking about. So my blog is on AAC Girls Blogspot, which means that anything that I talk about that has a hyperlink will be available for you to link on from that blog. And so let's take a look at our objectives for today. We're going to talk about what would be some things that would be necessary for storytelling when somebody's a beginning communicator or an emerging communicator, and thinking about how we might incorporate some of their personal communication strategies as we talk about making stories for and with this person. So let's take a look at that. So I think that most people have, especially as we get older, the favorite stories that we say to somebody, did I tell you about the time? Like, I've known you for a while, so I probably did, but maybe I didn't, because this is just the best story ever, right? And so I think that our kids, especially if we're looking at the adolescents and young adults, they've had a whole lifetime worth of experiences, and there probably are a few of those favorite ones that stick out that might be the I'm going to tell it every single time. And so thinking about how we can provide opportunities and supports for being able to do that. I have a video of a personal story that I think I loaded up. Let's see if it's in here. I don't see it here. So do you guys know about how to make sure that you're using your camera roll effectively for sharing about events and stories? Be sure to take items from your camera roll and don't just leave them as 356 photos. Okay? Select a few that go together and make them an album. So that way you can go in and use the photos as a way to tell the story. You can just swipe back and forth. So there might be a wordless story, right? We're just going to open up. My picture's about going wherever we went. Going to Peter Piper Pizza. I went there for lunch yesterday with a small group. So if we took a lot of pictures during that time, then I would be able to just go in and review, oh, there's so-and-so ordering, this is when we came in the door, this is, so I can do a whole social sequence about what are appropriate behaviors. If somebody fell apart, I can do another story about what happens when things go wrong. I can talk about feelings. So keeping that camera out and taking lots of pictures makes a big difference. So then you also want to then, so we said use your camera if you have an phone, iPad. Take a look at how your AirDrop is set so that you can find a picture that you want to share and AirDrop it. Okay, so I'm going to find a story from Travis. Let's see. This one. All right, so I find it and I say I want to AirDrop it. Let's take a look at this story.
I want to tell you about my accident.
Is that loud enough?
I was 3 years old when I was hit by a car.
So on your camera, you have to do the sharing thing. Okay? So this, I don't know how to make this any louder, but I'm hoping you can hear it well enough.
Accident happened on Veterans Day, November 11th.
Can you hear it?
I almost died.
Let me tell you about my accident. It happened on Veterans Day. I almost died.
Almost died. Dwayne, a policeman, and my dad helped me right away.
Dwayne, a policeman, and my dad helped me right away.
Dwayne gave me mouth-to-mouth and dad did compressions on my chest.
Dwayne gave me mouth-to-mouth, and Dad gave me compressions on my chest.
Dwayne, a policeman, and my dad helped me right away.
Dwayne, a policeman, and my dad helped me right away. So he's repeating part of the story, right? Oh, and I guess that's as far as I recorded. Then he said, then the rest of his story included, Grandpa prayed for me, and I was saved. Okay, so this man was a normal little kid and got hit by a car. And so, and it happened on Veterans Day. That mattered to him. I'm not really sure why, but it has now resulted in us being able to use that as a springboard to other things. First of all, when somebody new comes to our group, you can say, introduce yourself, so he can say more about himself than just his name, right? It also means that when Veterans Day comes around, we have something else to talk about at Veterans Day, and we share something that's also my grandmother's birthday. So now I've got this extra thing that if he wasn't including this whole story about when his accident happened, then, and we do a lot of that. My birthday is whatever month it is in. When is your birthday? Now that's a very short story, but you can use it, right? So you can use that as a way to talk about things that are personally meaningful. I get lots of great stuff on my birthday. Everybody, it's all about me. I love birthdays, and I especially love my birthday, right? So we can have that in as a personal story. So on your communication device, where you have the page that says about me, most people think that it's supposed to be there for when you see an unfamiliar person and you can say, my name is, because the person doesn't know your name. Well, I don't think that's the only time we should use that page. I don't think it really matters that you can tell somebody your address. I think that it matters that you can tell somebody, it's the page that's called About Me. Tell somebody about me, right? Tell a story about me. It might be it might be as long as Travis's story, and it might be shorter. Like last time for my birthday, I got something special, right? So not just when is my birthday. Like I have another friend, young adult, whose birthday is December 24th. That's a bummer, right? So there's a little story right there. So even just saying my birthday is December 24th starts a conversation every time. Like, oh, and she has a brother and a sister, same age. So wasn't that a great day for her mom, or a great Christmas for her mom, right? And as you would imagine, giving birth to 3 children, her mother was not home for Christmas, right? So, so thinking about our stories then, this is the first thing, is thinking about our personal photos. Organize your photos. Make sure that you take the time to grab a few photos, to take more than one photo when you go somewhere. Grab those photos and put them in a photo album. It's huge. One of the other things that you can do when you put the stories, your personal stories, into a photo album. All right, so I'm going to grab a few of my doggy stories, my doggy photos. Right, and I'm going to add them to a new album. If I do this with the person, I've got that one, not that one, that one, not that one, right? So I've got this chance to evaluate and talk about which would be the best photos. If I did it without the person, now that I have the photo album, I can just open the photo album. And I'm like, gee, looks like I did this before. You see it? One with 11 and one with 12. All right. Another trick is if you have somebody who does too much swiping, is you can use a switch. So this is called a Bluetooth switch interface. You can also buy some hardware switches, but to use with your iPad, this is an option that we could use for accessibility. All right, so if I tell my switch accessibility settings that I want to use a recipe called Turn Pages, when I triple click my accessibility shortcut, it's going to tell me that my switches are configured to use the Turn Pages recipe, and I can do this. This one is from AbleNet. So there's also inclusive TLC cell switch interfaces for the iPad. And there's some that are like individual buttons that you can buy, but you do have to look into a switch interface for the iPad, probably from a special needs company. So, but if you have somebody who has more limited physical skills, you may have already looked into having a switch interface for your iPad, right? So this is kind of fun, right? So now I can decide which is going to be the first page for my story. Now in the photo album, you can't change the order. Right? So you have to keep going back and forth. More, no, not that, right? So you have some talking about what are we going to do, where were we? So we can talk about, is this going to be a story about places? Is this going to be a story about feelings? Are we just going to add a couple of comments on this page, in this story? Are we going to just pick one thing and say that's our thought of the day, story of the day, right? So we can go through, and when we find, yeah, that one's my favorite, we could even look at that under our I like this comments page, make sure that under I like this, we have that's my favorite. So then we can say, yeah, that one's my favorite. I want to use that as the story that I want to tell today. So if I'm using an about me, I might do about my family. And so here I have a separate about my family. I'm sure my husband's thrilled that now he is videotaped. And look at, my family includes a dog, no little girls, no little boys. This is my little girl. So I could write a story about my family, right? And so, again, I could be looking through a couple of different photo albums and looking at what was the same, what was different, right? So by just having photo albums, it helps to give you a context for where to start. And we're looking at telling personal stories. And you may decide you're going to tell the same personal story over and over again. You can share, you can comment, you can describe. I have a lot of dirty pictures of my dog too. I just somehow delete them more often than I keep them. But ideas of her just covered in mud, and so then I would have, this one's clean. I do have taking a bath pictures, I think, that are still in there. That we've taken her, in the wintertime, we've had to go to take her somewhere to give her a bath instead of giving her a bath with the hose outside. So there would be nice places about, we have to go in the car, we have to go take a bath. And so if I'm talking about, taking the dog for a bath, it gives me a chance to talk about personal routines. Oh, we need shampoo, we need water, we need warm water, not cold water. We need, so you can do some of those typical sequential things that you do with those practicing your bathroom or cleanup routine with the kid. Instead of doing it that way, you can do it in telling a story about cleaning up the dog. Does that make sense? So you're still kind of using the same vocabulary that you would have used for taking a bath yourself, but you probably aren't going to really use your communication device in the shower. Not very often. I mean, there's a few of those life-proof cases, but I wouldn't do it. It's supposed to be okay, but I don't think it's necessary. So, but we can practice some of that vocabulary that is part of those daily living routines by making a story. So an about me, if we really want to do an about me book that other people will be interested in listening to, not just the person who creates it, then we might also want to do some other, some exceptional information about that person and comparing that person to other people, right? So if we wanted to make it more engaging, we can make a conversational storybook by adding some questions. So here's my picture. In my picture, I have blue eyes. What color are your eyes? So adding something in, our About Me pages on all of the young adults that I work with, all of the About Me pages have a question on them. It'll either link to some of the same questions, so my birthday is in May, when is your birthday? Or it will have at least, how about you? Right? So that after you share something about you, that it becomes a conversation by asking the other person about them too. So I also make books about how this person communicates. I don't have it on this iPad, but I've used Pictello for this because we can add both stories and videos into Pictello, and it's just 1 or 2 lines of text for each page. So we can go through and describe the things that we identified in the strange ways. This morning, Stephen Calcare was talking about using this for eat. Like, it was like this, right? So if this was this person's sign for eat, we teach them how to open up the book and read the book with new people. Oh, I have a book you need to read with me, because this book says this is my name and this is how I talk, and when I want something to eat, I go like this, right? Because maybe he's not hungry. He doesn't have to wait until it's time to eat to tell somebody how he says what I want to eat. You can read the book. So I like this idea of helping people to understand our kids by making books that would include pictures and video and simple pages that they can actually do this with somebody else. Tell the story about times when I say yes, examples of things that I would say yes to, and maybe some that I wouldn't say yes to, right? Some videos of that person saying yes and how they would do it. I think that's one of the titles of a book written by an AAC user that's part of my reference list. At the bottom of the blog, there are stories that are written by AAC users that you can check out. Moving on to single, quick, like my birthday is, when is your types of information transfer to narratives, much harder. So before we move all the way into a narrative, like a story that has a beginning and an ending and some things, I think Travis's story did have kind of an ending, because he said, Grandpa prayed for me and I was saved. We missed it because I stopped recording or something. But his story actually had details that started with the beginnings where he practiced, let me tell you about my accident and how old he was when it happened, right? So, but he worked a long time with other people. Now I should share with you that Travis does not have the kind of language on his device to compose all of those sentences. Okay, so we worked together to say what's going to go under button 1, what's going to go under button 2, what goes under button 3. And now he's pretty comfortable knowing that those are his thoughts and his ideas, because he's told this story, well, I've known him for 10 years, to every single new person that walks in the room. So, I know I've heard the story at least 100 times. And he's comfortable with what's going to come next. And so even though he didn't write all the words, he owns it. Does that make sense? So personal stories that you practice can give you chance. And I don't know if you noticed when he was doing it, he was also practicing saying a sentence and then looking. That was like a goal to not just look at the communication device to say each sentence, but to know that I'm telling you, so I need to look at the camera, find my message, and look at you again and make sure that you're watching me to tell my story. Getting to that point of a narrative, like telling what happened, is hard. So we might look at where's the place on somebody's communication device that you can teach them to say what happened today. Okay, so a little my day. And it might be just a single my day, so it's a very quick story that doesn't require turning the page and finding all the photographs. It might be pick the one photograph from today that you want to talk about. So you can call somebody and tell them about your day, right? Or if they're going to school, when you get home, you can tell it. Or when you're at home, when you go to school in the morning, you can tell it. This is a very common strategy that teachers will use with beginning authors to share a little bit about, so little kindergartners will like draw a little picture, they'll send home the bear, so they have an experience that they can share. And so we've used that for AAC for a long time, saying, let's do news from home, news from school. So a lot of our AAC devices have that page, news from home, news from school, and special news. So I can show you a little bit of that. So
mode is active.
Let's turn off switching.
Point.
So Proloquo to go in the chat page has an about me where I can write. So here's my about me, here's my dog, and here's something else about me.
I like drinking coffee.
Okay, so it's a little, so I could learn how to say do you, right?
Do you?
I modeled, I have a dog Shiba, and during an assessment somebody else put,
I have Max.
practiced adding the button I have Max. What we did, so let's do a news one. So I'm gonna open up, instead of the about me, I'm gonna open up my news and stories. And if we look at this one,
Today we look for eggs.
here's a story. Okay, so if I wanted to add one, what's cool about this app is that I can make my message using the language in the device and then save that to the button. So there has to be a message up here before I say add that button, but I can make a message that says,
I like this.
Actually, I'm going to do it with this keyboard. No, I'm not.
CONFERENCE.
Okay, so once I have my message, then I can say, add my button, and decide what my image is going to be.
I like this conference.
Okay, so I went to this conference, you know, so I could just have that little photograph in there. Yeah.
Where did you, my son does that all, I wonder how he's adding.
So, yep, you have to have a message up there, and this can be turned on or off. As long as there's a message up there, in this lower right-hand corner, you get add a button. All right, so is anybody using touch chat? There was somebody here earlier using touch chat. Touch chat would have a page with the news, so one of the social pages will be a news page, and then you can save the message to a button. I'll show it to you also in Lamp Words for Life, sentences. My goodness.
What is this one?
This is Words for Life. And so somebody was telling me they had Speak for Yourself. It's similar to that, where you have word families. And so you get some concepts that kind of go together. So, so I must have added my button to the other device. But so we get different kinds of button action. So if you have a Nova Chat or Touch Chat or Words for Life, you can have a button action that says to save my message. So I can store the text to a button. And my keyboard isn't coming up. Let me do that. Okay, so depending on what app you have, if there's a possibility of putting a message in here, so
I went to the gym. Last. Y-E-A-R.
you thought I was going to say last week, right? Or yesterday? No. Save somewhere. Oh, that's why. Well, that was interesting. So then it tells me, but look at that, now it's on a different place. So watch what happens. It's going to override one of my buttons, right? So pick the place you want it to go. So if you have the store the text to a button and you're teaching people how to store the text to a button, make sure they know that they could override the message that's already on another button, because you can pick any button to store it on. Now, on ProLocal, you're adding buttons and you're not replacing, but in Touch Chat and Lamp, when you say store the text to a button, you can store over something else. The old Dynavox has had it too. So it's nice, but it does take a little bit of direction or guided practice. I did promise that I was going to do a little bit of Go Talk. So let me do a student. Okay, so I can set up on Go Talk any kind of communication book, and I can decide if I want 4 or 9 on a page. Go to the About Me page, for example.
About me.
This one is auditory prompts turned on, so I can decide, did I want to go to the About Me or did I just want to chat? If I want to chat, I can hang out here. What I think,
What I think. I like that. Awesome.
oh, I pushed the same button.
I like that. I like that.
You notice something happen?
I like that.
Cool. This is randomly choosing a message. So this can be really fun and doesn't work well for telling a story, but it works for making a comment. So if you only have so many buttons, but you want to make it more interesting, you can take a button and say choose. So this is the what I think page. And I can put this little poll in between the messages, and then it randomly picks one. So I've done that for greetings, I've done that for positive and negative comments. I've even done it for neutral, just to know that I'm listening. So there's a button that says, I'm listening, keep going randomly. Okay, tell me more. Right, so that I can, so it's these little lines that go up and down, have to be between the messages. It's this one. So that's a fun little thing about Go Talk Now. The other thing is that if you jump to another page, I can say, I want to jump to, this, I like it. So today, I want to pick a story I like. So I'm going to make it jump to a story I like. Right? So after say I like that, it's going to jump to another book. Does that make sense? So I'm going to say I like that, and then I'm going to have it jump to I love dogs. And I can pick a page for my I love dogs. Well, this one's fine. All right, so I'm going to go back. I'm going to chat with you.
Chat. Chat.
I'm going to tell you what I think.
What I think.
And I'm going to talk about something I like.
I like that. Cool.
Okay, and I actually opened up a different book that has 4 different choices of stuff I like. I like dogs. I was going to do what I love bugs, but yeah, I really don't, so I just couldn't do it. So this story, I love dogs,
I love dog.
is online. This is called Tar Heel Reader. Okay, so Tar Heel Reader you can read on your computer, you can read on your iPad, and you can turn the speech on or off. How many of you have heard of it? Yay! We're doing a great job. There are lots and lots of stories, and this is just a great opportunity for us to read about what other people like and to talk about it, and then use that as a framework for writing our own story. Okay, so here's I love dogs. And let's see, is this still on? No, I turned it off because it was doing something funny. Not guided access. Switch control. There we go.
Some dogs are big. And some dogs are small. Some dogs have lots of hair. And some are nearly bald.
Right, so we can practice when you read a story or listen to a story, we make some comments about it. Now I'm online, I can look at, when I get done with this story,
Some dogs are fast.
there is a place that says, what do you think about this? And I can rate it 1, 2, or 3 stars.
And some like to be messy.
That looks like my dog. Now, if you're using your communication app, then what you want to do is you want to grab your printouts, right? So now I'm reading a book on my iPad. I need to have a way to do some comments. So if I'm on Proloquo to go, I print the pages. Right? So I have the home page and they share that at their booth, but I also have other pages in here. Here's a chat page. Right? So along this chat page I have under positive, amazing, cool, favorite, fun, nice, wonderful, and I like it. Negative, awful, bad, crazy, disgusting, dumb, strange, and I don't like it. Right? So these were the things that I added on this page of chatting stuff. I also put that this would be the place where I would find about me, and so my low-tech book has this kind of stuff, so I can know, oh, under the about me, I have a dog, right? So maybe I'm here, I open up my low-tech book, about me, I have a dog, right? So when you use the printouts, and GoTalk is very good at that, all you have to do is go to the page where you would edit and say, send this book as a PDF. And then you just have people print it. I mean, it's as far as printouts of the pages, and for Proloquo, you do screenshots, right? My trick is I take the things that are folders, so the home page, the first page, had folders across the bottom, I cut it off and taped them to the other pages, right? So the little folders are now taped to the places where they go. I did that for Words for Life. Same thing. And if you have touch chat, they actually did it for us, where we can just go find a PDF and print it and follow their instructions. Oh, I went backwards.
Dogs are fancy. And some like to be messy. But I love all dogs.
Aww.
And they love me in return. What would you like to do now?
Okay, and so now here I can say I want to rate it.
How do you rate this book? What would you like to do now?
And it tells us what the average rating was. So if I write a book, so if you guys think you want to do Tar Heel Reader books, you need to be invited. You can't just do it. When you go to sign in to Tar Heel Reader, it'll say, did you get an invitation code from anybody? Because they don't want just anybody making Tar Heel Reader books and messing them all up. It's just so important that they stay valuable. And there are people that are now writing books that are, the ideas are for older kids who are still beginning readers. That's where we just don't have enough supports for our adolescents or adults, because there's all these little baby books and picture books, but not like pictures of interesting stuff for our older kids and adults to read. So, so this one, read another book, gives us a chance to talk about all kinds of topics. So we could do Superman. No, who's the one coming up? It's Spider-Man, isn't it? There's a new Spider-Man movie.
Spider-Man is a hero. Spider-Man can climb. Spider-Man can fight. Spider-Man can shoot webs from his hand.
Okay, so if your student is interested in Spider-Man, you can read this book, then you can talk about what's my favorite page from this book. I want to do a screenshot so that on my communication device I have this really great picture. If you're using it in GoTalk, you can even link right to the book from GoTalk. Say, well, let me tell you this story about Spider-Man. I can have a URL right on the button. As long as you're on the internet, it'll open the book. And you can start reading about that. You can also download these. So I'm going to go back to the...
Spider-Man has sticky hands. Spider-Man has
Ooh. Right? I love this for body parts, right? The hands, the eyes, the enemy's tongue, right? And so if I wanted to do something fun with this book,
Spider-Man is a Spider-Man.
this has a lot of pages.
Spider-Man is a Spider-Man is cool. What would you like to do now?
I'm going to go back to read this book again, and I'm going to say, I've decided that I want, oops,
Spider-Man.
I want to download this book. Okay? So if I download it as EPUB, it's going to open in iBooks, and I can still swipe, and I can read this book when I'm not online. Okay, I can't make it launch from GoTalk, but I can, if I'm using another app, I could say, I want to read my books, and go open up the iBook app and take a look at it there. If you want to put it into Pictello, you copy the web address, and then you go to Pictello Converter website, and it'll bring it into Pictello, and I'll show you the Pictello one. Right now, I'm going to download it as a PowerPoint. And there was a brief thing that said, oh, you have a PowerPoint. Did you want to open it in Explain Everything? Explain Everything is $10 right now. Let me go back to doing that again. It looks like I had something open, so let me do it again. Not very fast, but Explain Everything is a screencasting app. So I can take a PowerPoint or a bunch of pictures from my camera roll and write all over them. Record all over them, make some things go big and small, and do stuff with them. All right, so I'm going to do separate slides. And I can decide on this page what I want to do with this one, and now I can talk through with the student, what do I want to happen? And I can take out some of the slides. I said, boy, this is really, really long. I don't need all of those things. I'm going to take out that one and swinging and jumping, because I might do those as a separate story. And if I just wanted to do this funky thing about body parts, sticky hands, spider eyes, so now it only has 4 or 5 pages. I'm going to erase those. And we just have a few, right? So now I can decide if I want to leave this text here or write something different on here. I can draw on it. I can record on it. Spider-Man is a hero. Spider-Man is a hero. Spider-Man is a hero. Spider-Man has spider eyes. Let's do that in a different color. Spider-Man has sticky hands. Spider-Man's enemy has a yucky tongue. Spider-Man is cool. Enter project name, Spider-Man. I think that I just want to put a video in my camera roll. So I say I'm going to save it under photos. I can save it right up to YouTube. That's so cool, right? So now you can go, I want to send you a YouTube. I wrote it myself. All right, so now I'm just taking a book, and so I could have gone through and personalized. It's not really a personal story, but it's based on something maybe I would have added. I went to Spider-Man movie last week, or a Spider-Man movie is coming out, so I can change the pages. The other thing that I didn't show you that I like to do is if I want to highlight certain parts of somebody's communication page, I'm going to go back to my other projects. So like here, I did a video to highlight the word help.
Help. When I need help, I can ask. I can say, help.
Okay, so I can make a little video of an example of a way to use something on the communication device. So what I did was I added 2 images. And I just made one image, I changed the size of the image. New project. Add an image. So I can pull in my Spider-Man video one again and keep going from there where it's a video and then I've done other things from the video. Or I can take a look at some other things. Well, here's a screenshot of an app. So let's say I was playing with this app, and I want to talk about how it works. This app is called Snapscene by Toby Dynavox. And so in the Snapscene app, I can bring in a photograph, and I can make a hotspot, add a label, and record a sound. So if I wanted to tell somebody how to do this, I can use Explain Everything to do what are the steps, right? If I didn't want to do that one, I want to add a different picture. Let's look at another screenshot. So I'm going to take a screenshot from a communication display. So let's look at expressions, for example. And if I add another one and I wanted to make one of these stand out, I'm going to pull that up again. And this time I'm going to crop it. I think. Crop it. What should we do? How about great? Okay, now I hit record. When something is great, I can say, it's great! Yay! And clap a lot. It's great. Great is my project name, say okay. Put it in my photo row.
What did you do to get the image to like come up and?
Pinching. So I put it in twice. I put it in the full display, and then I put in a second one that I cropped down. And then I did that pinch thing. You move it around, pinch and zoom. For $10, I think it's a great way to highlight certain words to practice your communication device. And then I can put it into a story, right? So I can have a story that I wrote, and then I put this video in at the end, right? So if I'm going to make a story in GoTalk, I can put my story on individual pages. Okay, so each page can have its own page from the story. And I can just swipe to the next page. I activated it instead of swiping to the next thing. This is still going to the, but I can go to the next page to do a story, right? So I make a story that has just a single button on each page. If I want it to play my video at the end of the story, then when I go to edit my button, I do like this one where I say the action should be to play my video. Okay, right now this has Spot. It's a story that, actually let me just play it. But I can change the video by choosing the video from my camera roll, okay?
Spot the dog. Spot is my dog. Spot is a happy dog. Spot likes many things. Spot likes to run in the woods. Spot likes to swim in the water. Spot likes to play in the snow. Spot likes to fetch sticks in the water. Spot likes to fetch balls in the yard. Spot likes to sleep in his bed.
Sorry.
Most of all, Spot likes to sleep in my bed.
See, I did a little tap on the my word, right? So I might go through and highlight Spot as my dog and my bed one time, and I could even go back in to explain everything and circle where's my dog, where's my bed. Actually, I might go, no, he's not. Spot is not my dog. Were you guys paying attention when we did the About Me? Did you see what color my dog is when I showed the pictures? That's not my dog. My dog looks more like that one up there. So now we got this descriptive. My dog is black. My dog. So I can go back and explain everything, do another one that compares. Spot is not my dog. Right? Add my own slide with my own picture. Sheba is my dog. Spot likes to swim in the water. Sheba doesn't like water. And I have a picture of her like taking a bath. So I can go in and do a contrasting, make a personal story based on the slides that I downloaded from a Tar Heel Reader story that's just there and ready to go. Spot the Dog is a Tar Heel Reader story. All right, so I can go on that website, download the PowerPoint or download it into iBooks and use it as a reference to start talking about. If I can't just do it about me, it can be about something that I'm interested in, like the Spider-Man or the dog. I like thinking of core words, so doing stories that have I love or I like to bring it back to being a personal story, I think is a great start when we're trying to help people do those first stellar storytelling and story sharing. If we can hang out with ideas of things I can comment on whether I like it or I don't like it. I'll show you the bugs one. So one of my favorite authors is Jane Farrell. And I meant to show you her little hello story the last time. And so there's 2 hello stories, and we practiced
Hello.
with my group that there's 2 different ones, so we might see different pictures. So like, how are they different? How do you say hello?
Good morning.
And then we said, well, what if, how would you tell somebody about this book? What else could you say about this book? So then they talked about not just like I could say good morning too, but they also said, well, it looks sunny and hot, but she's covered her hand, like her hand is cold. Is her hand cold? You know, so it was kind of interesting, you know, just doing some observations on the photos too.
Hello. Good.
Hello, how are you? Hi. Very much about the hand wave part, right? In this story, there's a lot of hand waving, so then we can use that as an opportunity to talk about, well, when you say hello, you can wave to people, and that's a really good idea, especially when they're far away.
Hi. Hello.
I hear they're far away.
Hi.
So it's on the first page. Okay, so when I get to the end of the story,
It's nice to see you. Hooray. Hello. Hi. What's been happening? Hello.
then we got to holidays.
Hi. Where are you?
This was an incredibly long version, but I love how there were some holiday things to talk about even.
I've seen so many
So you'd
friends.
say, well, how do you say hi when it's Christmas? You know, so we talked about different ways that you might say hi at Christmas
I
time.
said hello. Now it's goodbye.
And there's the end. Okay, so that's the end of my story. I can practice goodbye and good night.
The end. What would you like to
Read
do
this
now?
book again. Look for the
Hello.
download gear on the first page. And that's where you'll see that you can download it either as a PowerPoint or as an EPUB. Now the voices are okay. And so if you were downloading these stories, you wanted to have them available offline, one thing you can do is by explain everything and record it yourself. If you wanted to still use like the same kind of voice as was in your communication app, like in the Proloco to Go communication app, and you wanted the story read as if the student is reading the story in the same voice that you have in your app, Assistiveware sells Pictello, and so you can have the same voice from all the Tar Heel Reader books by using the Tar Heel Reader converter. Okay, so in Pictello now I can open up a Tar Heel Reader book.
There was a farmer, had a dog, and Bingo was his name.
Do you like dogs? I like ugly dogs.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to the library and look for one that came from Tar Heel Reader, like, actually, let's do this one. This is a Tar Heel Reader book.
Let's make a blizzard. Let's make a blizzard. It is very hot. I need to cool down.
So we found pictures from online, Flickr, and we also put some of our personal pictures. Let's make a blizzard.
First, we need 2 cups of ice cream. I like ice cream. Next, we need milk. We made coffee syrup.
This is our grown-up version of blizzards.
You can put in bananas and peanut butter.
We have one member that no matter what we're making, she says put in bananas. So it's been interesting. Next week we're going to make a banana cake. We've done, of course, banana smoothies. And we're making, we make lots of cold drinks, right? So we're making a lemonade. And she said put in bananas. I'm like, really? In lemonade? So I looked up Brazilian lemonade. And somebody said, put in milk. I'm like, so somebody said, like make lemonade and put in milk. I'm like, really, we're going to put milk in our lemonade? So I looked up milk in lemonade, and it is a thing. Brazilian lemonade uses sweetened condensed milk and lemonade. And you can use like regular limes and even blend it all up and then strain it afterwards. So we're going to do this. We're going to stick our limes, we're going to cut our limes, stick them in the blender, put in sweetened condensed milk, and drink that. Some people might like it and some people might not, right? That's the fun part about making something and having a story about it. I'd rather have something that some people aren't going to like, because that's a more interesting story than something that everybody likes. Because we already know that one of our members says she does not like lemonade, but she might like it with sweetened condensed milk in it, right? And extra sugar. And then we kept looking at the recipes, and sure enough, eventually we came up with one that said you would use the coconut milk and bananas and lime juice. So we're going to make it again, and we're going to make a lemonade with bananas and coconut milk and see if it's any good. But we've definitely done a lot of these ice cream and what do we do with it, right? So we've got our directions, and then I always try to think of a way to add a question at the end, make it personal, right? The end. And so now I'm in my Pictello app, and I can, we can use
Leche.
English or Spanish voices. So I have my Pro Loco to Go is bilingual because I work with a lot of families that have to be supported in both English and Spanish. And so we make stories in Pictello. We're able to choose that the same voice to have a really good
Abrir y echar.
a good voice. And I can add videos in here too.
Me gusta la hamburguesa.
Okay, so that's Pictello. And starting with Tar Heel Reader, downloading it, opening it in Pictello. The same thing would go, whether you're using Go Talk Now, Tar Heel Reader, or Pictello. When you want to start with your personal stories, the words that you choose matters. So a way to get started would be to think about how I can use like a repeated line. My favorite repeated line, you may have noticed, is I like. Right? So I look for words that say I like, and then I try to make sure that when I modify the story, that I have an ending that talks about what I don't like, or do you like it, or something, so I know that we've reached the end, and then the last page it's not going to say I like anymore. So that there's like, you're paying attention to the text, so you have I like on most of the pages, but not all of the pages. Right? So this is called, in kindergarten, they call it predictable chart writing. Every kid does a little sentence and you write it out and they go, that was my sentence, that was my sentence. And they get their name behind their sentence. And then on another day, they cut it apart and they practice putting it back together. So I included in my blog this idea of predictable chart writing as a way to do a repeated line story for anybody that helps you have some structure to being a better reader or sharing a story about something that's personal, that's going to help you to communicate more about things you like, to communicate more about who you are. And if you have some of those repeated lines, you can vary the topic. It doesn't always have to be what I like, but this is where I start because I think it's one of the most fun stories to tell and for our kids to tell, right? To talk about what I like. It's harder to talk about what I did and where I went. We like doing that. You know, we take pictures to talk about what I did and where I went, but I see a lot of the people that I work with struggling. They don't care after it's over. It's like so much harder to say, well, tell us how you made that. No, what are we making next? Right? So it may not be And it's easy. So here's the I like bugs.
I like bugs. I like red bugs.
When you want to put it in Pictello,
I like round bugs.
So to put it into Pictello, you do this. Here's my first
I
page.
like bugs.
And I need to select all and copy that. Then I go Tar Heel Reader to Pictello Converter. Oh, there it is. It's on the Assistiveware website, but I never remember what it. I haven't bookmarked it or anything. I just go here. It says, okay, paste the title page here. Bonk. Send it to my email. That's it. I'm getting an email with it, and then I'll open in Pictello. That's it. Sure. That's why I want to make sure this is an interactive session, right? I want you guys to get what's going to be helpful to you from this. Okay, so here's I like bugs.
I like red. I like round bugs. I like black bugs. I like bugs. I like orange bugs. I like green bugs. I like bugs. I like bugs with spots. I like bugs with stripes. I like bugs. I like bugs with wings. I like bugs with long legs.
Seriously, right? Have you seen a bug that you like yet? I have not.
Like bugs.
Okay? So I did not like any one of those. Not one. So this would be one that I could use to write a story. Right? So I could say, yeah, that's not true, right? You know, so you could do something that I like red bugs not. So I could add an extra page in between. No, I don't. I like yellow bugs. No, I don't. I like, so we can practice on some of our expressions by saying I'm going to download this book, and then I'm going to go in and find my expressions. So, chat, negative. Maybe I could say just a little.
A little.
There. Bye. Sorry, that was nice of you to come up and say something. I'm being too slow getting to my.
Goodbye.
All right, so going back here to my negative. So I might say, some of those I like a little. And so that could be a way that I change it. Oh, just a little. Some of those are kind of cute. Like if it was a butterfly or something, I might say, oh, I like it a little. But most of them, I would go, no. No, I don't like it. I might say, I don't want that. I hate that, right? Somebody likes yellow bugs, but no, I don't. We're done, aren't we? Aren't we supposed to go from 1:15 to 2:30? All right, so that I was gonna, is there other things? So I tried to think about what you guys were gonna ask and include that, yeah. Uh-huh.
Because we can know that the word spends our native language, and sometimes we can think that maybe when it's easier for thinking in certain situations. Is there a regular, like the other devices, they don't have it, they have it in Spanish.
No, I'm not aware of other languages besides Spanish because that's what we speak most often here. But if you were going to use some of the other, like, just, Go Talk Now is a great example. You record your own voice. So if you were to use something that allowed you to record a message in, many of the apps, really Proloquo to Go is the only one that doesn't have recorded voice messages. All of the other ones are much more set up where you can choose to either type the message or record your voice.
Well, and how many of them are tied to the voice of the device you're on, like the Apple iPad? I know that my son-in-law actually wrote an app called Angel Talk, and that's what he did when he wrote it, because it's a very basic app, so that it connects to the voice of the iPad, so whatever language you have your iPad in.
Yeah, if you can spell, there are some more options for just using a speaking app that you could type and read back. So there are some things that if you were just going to type in the messages, that it could read it back, but then to be able to put that on a button is the next challenge. So yeah, I have typed in messages for, yeah. And there was another app that nobody really brought up, but this Total Talk app is also, I included a couple of links or a mention of it in my blog, because it also has stories, and there's some really nice stories. It's actually based on the stories on the Can We Chat social scripts by Caroline Musselwhite and Linda Burkhart. And this is the updated version, so I don't know how many stories we have, but like, here's a story.
Hey, let's talk about guys. Who do you think is cute? Really? Tell me more.
So the idea is that you're doing a turn transfer, that the story is specifically set up with the idea that this isn't just a story, this is a conversational script that goes in order like it was a story. So you could do whatever app you have and set up a story with the idea that my story is a conversational script where I'm going to stop for turn transfers and ask somebody something and wait, and then make sure that you know when you get to the end.
Guess who I think is cute? Give me names and I'll let you know.
So if you do this guess, I can tell you yes or no. Some of those things are really nice too, to build in those conversational strategies that the student already has. I can say yes or no. So ask me if my team won the last game. I can tell you, right?
What do you think? Anybody else who's really cute? Go to go. Catch you later.
Okay, so this is just a structure that goes one to the next, but any of your apps you could set up a story sequence like that. So a personal story could just be a way to have a conversation on a topic that has a beginning and an ending. And in the middle, you can plan turn transfers with communication partners as long as your communication partner knows that that's what's expected of them, right? You can't just play the story like a story and sit there by yourself, like, who do you think is cute? And like, it just doesn't go anywhere unless you actually are talking to somebody about it, so. All right, well, thank you for staying a few extra minutes since we started a few minutes late.